Cedar Point, America's roller coast, a park that is notorious for opening the most exciting, massive, record-breaking coasters in the world. Nearly every coaster in this park has the potential of being a star attraction in any other park in the world. That's how stacked their lineup is. The park currently offers a total of 16 coasters, 17 if you count Top Thrill 2, currently set to reopen this year. The current coaster lineup dates all the way back to 1964, and in that length of time, a number of fantastic songs have been released. I've mentioned that I'm a music teacher, and I have a strong appreciation for music of all different genres extending through many decades. So let's go through some of my favorites that came out each year Cedar Point added their current coasters. Welcome to ElToroRyan, and these are my favorite songs told through the coaster lineup of Cedar Point. Before we get into it, make sure you take the time to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future content. Also, be sure to give this video a like, as that will really help against the YouTube algorithm. Cedar Point's current lineup starts with Blue Streak in 1964. This coaster was named after a local high school athletic team, and it originally was not painted blue and white like it is today. It was also one of only 3 coasters in operation in the park at the time, but its popularity helped to fuel Cedar Point's growth, leading to many more coasters in the coming decades. In music, there was a lot of excitement on the Billboard charts that year. The Beach Boys had people dancing to I Get Around. The Righteous Brothers gave us You've Lost That Lovin' Feeling. Roy Orbison sang Pretty Woman. Motown was roaring out of Detroit with artists like Sam Cooke and the Temptations. But no artist was more impactful in 1964 than the Beatles. When they came to America that February, they were seen on nearly every TV in the country when they appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show. They would go on to have many great chart toppers that year, but my personal favorite from that time played a part in their first feature film, A Hard Day's Night. It was later the name of a notable movie from the 80s, and that is Can't Buy Me Love. The next major coaster is Cedar Creek Mine Ride, which opened in 1969. Following the success of the Matterhorn bobsleds at Disneyland, Arrow was in high demand with their innovative new tubular steel track coaster. The Runaway Mine Train model became their next big project, and it would end up being installed in a number of parks across the country, serving as a solid opening day coaster for some of them. By that year, music had been undergoing some major changes. While some styles stayed relevant, such as Motown, which included the Jackson 5 hit I Want You Back, the charts were being dominated by rock. This included Whole Lotta Love by Led Zeppelin. The Beatles released their final 2 albums during this time, which featured classics such as Here Comes the Sun and Get Back. Neil Diamond debuted Sweet Caroline, Frank Sinatra sang I Did It My Way, and David Bowie gave us Space Oddity. Creedence Clearwater Revival sang about their objection to the Vietnam War and Fortunate Son. But my favorite definitely comes in the form of the raw emotion and unique guitar sound in the Rolling Stones song Gimme Shelter. As Arrow continued to develop, the 1970s saw the addition of inversions in their coasters. 1976 included the addition of Corkscrew, the first roller coaster to feature 3 inversions. While the coaster might be considered pretty rough today, the double corkscrew element over the midway still catches the attention of everyone that walks underneath. Meanwhile, the charts were featuring a lot of variety. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers gave us American Girl, Queen was starting to get noticed with songs such as Somebody to Love, and Kiss released Detroit Rock City. ABBA dominated the disco charts with Dancing Queen, and Fleetwood Mac told us you can go your own way. The Eagles' iconic song Hotel California was also released in 1976, but my personal favorite of that year is without a doubt More Than a Feelin' by Boston. Just 2 years later, Cedar Point got another great coaster in Gemini. This Aero-Design hybrid racing coaster was once considered the tallest coaster in the world at 125 feet tall. This one is especially fun to ride because if you take the inside seat, you can high-five the riders on the other train as it rounds the turns. In 1978, the music charts were dominated by disco. Songs like Gloria Gaynor's I Will Survive, The Village People with YMCA, and You're the One That I Want from Grease. Blondie's iconic tune Heart of Glass, Sultans of Swing by Dire Straits, and Bob Seger's Old Time Rock and Roll were all released that same year. Journey debuted with a new lead singer, Steve Perry, on their hits Wheel in the Sky and Lights, and Styx dropped their song Renegade. But my personal favorite of 1978 comes from a highly regarded rock band whose guitarist helped bring finger tapping into the mainstream. Ain't Talking About Love by Van Halen. Following the additions of many thrill coasters, Cedar Point contracted Intamin to build their very first coaster, a small-scale kids' ride named Junior Gemini with a figure-8 layout and just across from its larger counterpart. The coaster today goes by the name Wilderness Run and can be found in the Planet Snoopy area. As for music in 1979, many artists were starting to make a name for themselves. Michael Jackson and his hit Don't Stop Till You Get Enough hit the charts. The Sugar Hill Gang brought rap into the mainstream with Rapper's Delight, Charlie Daniels gave us one of the most well-known country hits in The Devil Went Down to Georgia, and the Knack dropped My Sharona. Also, The Clash released London Calling. For 1979, I gotta give it to a song that features what has to be one of my personal favorite guitar solos of all time, and that is Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 by Pink Floyd. Cedar Point's next major coaster came in 1987. Iron Dragon, the first steel coaster I ever rode, is an aero-suspended coaster. Unlike many of the other suspended coasters, this one is more geared towards families with its rather tame ride experience. Despite the slower pace, this coaster still offers a fun ride, swinging you first through the woods and then over the water and offering many great near-miss elements. By 1987, MTV had been going strong for 6 years and music videos were starting to hit their stride. Michael Jackson released Bad, his follow-up to the legendary Thriller album. Whitney Houston wanted to dance with somebody, George Michael had faith, and U2 went where the streets have no name. Guns N' Roses exploded onto the scene with Welcome to the Jungle and Sweet Child of Mine. Aerosmith came out with Dude Looks Like a Lady, Motley Crue gave us Girls, 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 and Whitesnake featured Tony Katay in their music video for Here I Go Again. As you can see, the year was dominated by hair metal. 1987 was also the year that my all-time favorite band hit their peak. Following the car accident and return of their drummer, who learned how to play with only one arm, Def Leppard's album Hysteria, with 7 hit singles, will become one of the best-selling albums of all time. Despite amazing hits such as Love Bites, Animal, and of course Pour Some Sugar on Me, my personal favorite is Armageddon It. 1989 was a big year for Cedar Point. The addition of Magnum XL 200 helped fire the first shots in what became known as the Coaster Wars. Being the first continuous circuit coaster to crack the 200-foot barrier, this coaster got a lot of attention. Today, this coaster still stands as an icon of the park, giving what might be the best finale on any coaster. The perfectly triangular airtime hills offer such intense airtime, it quickly landed in my top 10 favorites. 1989 was the beginning of the end for hair metal. Motley Crue released their most notable hits such as Dr. Feelgood and Kickstart My Heart, Skid Row dropped 18 in Life, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers started getting more airplay with their cover of Stevie Wonder's Higher Ground. Cher told us what she'd do if she could turn back time, and Billy Joel celebrated his 40th birthday by letting us know we didn't start the fire. Tom Petty went solo, giving us Free Fallin' and Won't Back Down. Young MC dropped one of the best rap songs of all time in Bust a Move, among many others. My personal favorite goes to an Aerosmith song with a very unique guitar sound that I love so much, and that is Janie's Got a Gun. Jumping ahead to 1994, Cedar Point gave their next project to B&M. Following the success of their inverted model, Cedar Point asked for a custom model that was taller, faster, and featured more inversions, and boy did they deliver. Raptor opened with 6 inversions, including the first Cobra roll to be featured on an inverted coaster. The coaster is still glossy smooth and offers such an exciting ride experience. 1994 music saw the end of the grunge scene with the death of Kurt Cobain, but that didn't stop Soundgarden from releasing the incredible song Black Hole Sun. Alternative music was on the rise, exemplified by Weezer's Blue album, which featured songs like Say It Ain't So, Buddy Holly, and the Sweater Song. TLC warned us not to go chasing waterfalls. Rappers such as Notorious B.I.G. were starting to gain popularity, and the Beastie Boys dropped their iconic song Sabotage. Jeff Buckley released his recording of Hallelujah, and Hootie and the Blowfish sang Hold My Hand. Green Day also released one of their most well-known albums, which featured songs such as Basket Case, When I Come Around, and my personal favorite, Longview. With the success of Raptor, B&M was called to Cedar Point once again just 2 years later. This time, they opened a large-scale stand-up coaster, the tallest and fastest at the time, Mantis. Over the years, Mantis saw a significant decline in ridership. Stand-up coasters came to be considered uncomfortable and seen more as a novelty than anything. So in 2014, Cedar Point decided to replace the stand-up trains with floorless sit-down cars. With the new trains came a fresh paint job and the name Rougarou. While not my favorite name, this is still a fun coaster nonetheless. Popular music hadn't changed much since 1994. Sean Colvin released Sunny Came Home that year. Sublime dropped their 2 best-known songs in Santeria and What I Got. The Wallflowers, fronted by the son of Bob Dylan, released the highly regarded One Headlight as well. Rage Against the Machine came out with a combination of rock and rap with Bulls on Parade. Dr. Dre topped the charts with No Diggity. This was also the year that Matchbox 20 released their debut album, which featured some of the best alternative rock songs of all time. The very popular Push, 3 AM, which was the first song I learned how to play on the guitar, and my personal favorite, Real World. 1999 saw the unveiling of a new family coaster in Woodstock Express. This Vekoma Jr. coaster model has been cloned many times over the years, but this one has a unique feature in the train engine on the front. The year 1999 saw the release of one of my favorite one-hit wonders, She's So High by Tal Bachman. John Frusciante returned to the Red Hot Chili Peppers and played a major role in their critically acclaimed Californication album, featuring songs like The Other Side and Scar Tissue. This was also the year of Mambo No. 5, Livin' La Vida Loca, and of course All Star. One of everyone's favorite bands to hate on, Creed, came out that year with Higher. Blink-182 also dropped All the Small Things, and Matchbox 20 frontman Rob Thomas joined Santana for their hit song Smooth. This was also a big year for one of the biggest boy bands of all time. For my favorite, I gotta give it to one of the biggest of my childhood, Larger Than Life by the Backstreet Boys. Cedar Point kicked off the new millennium in a big way. The 310-foot-tall Millennium Force became the world's first gigacoaster. With a top speed of 93 miles per hour and a track length of over 6,000 feet, this coaster has had such a profound impact on the amusement park industry. The coaster has been ranked number 1 in Amusement Today's Golden Ticket Awards a total of 10 times. The year 2000 also saw the release of many fantastic songs. Lifehouse came out with Hangin' by a Moment, Coldplay's song Yellow hit the charts, as did Three Doors Down's signature song Kryptonite, and Linkin Park's In the End. Eminem asked the real Slim Shady to please stand up. Matchbox 20 also released a great follow-up album, with 2 more of my favorites in If You're Gone and Mad Season. Britney Spears gave us Oops, I Did It Again, and the Baha Men wanted to know Who Let the Dogs Out. My favorite from 2000 is one I'd like to know just how many of you remember. 9 Days, Absolutely. You know, the one that tells the story of a girl who cried a river and drowned the whole world. Even though Top Thrill 2 reopens this year, I'm going to refer to it as when it originally opened in 2003 as Top Thrill Dragster, since the entire coaster wasn't completely removed. Dragster opened as the first full-circuit coaster over 400 feet tall, and despite a troubled history of being unreliable, it was still a very popular coaster for the park. By now, most people know about the accident that took place in 2021, and we're all looking forward to the reopening in 2024. What about hit songs? Linkin Park gave us Numb, Jet asked Are You Gonna Be My Girl, and Hoobastank said The Reason Is You. This was also the year of Mr. Brightside, Seven Nation Army, and Bring Me Back to Life. This was also the year the Outkast had us jamming to Hey Ya. Personally, I gotta give it to Fountains of Wayne with their iconic song Stacy's Mom. On to 2007. After the coaster wars subsided, Cedar Point proved that size isn't always everything. Maverick opened with a height of only 105 feet, but with 2 LSM-powered launches, great airtime, and lots of strong low-to-the-ground lateral turns, this coaster still stands as one of the best coasters of all time. 2007 was the year Rihanna gave us Please Don't Stop the Music and Umbrella. This was also the year of Paper Planes and everyone being obsessed with the Soulja Boy dance. Timbaland and One Republic let us know it was too late to apologize, Fall Out Boy said thanks for the memories, and Sarah Bareilles was not gonna write you a love song. My personal favorite, though, has to be The Pretender by the Foo Fighters. Following a very busy decade, Cedar Point took a break from adding coasters. As the 2010s started, Cedar Point parted ways with 2 coasters that had been operating for a number of years. Wildcat and Disaster Transport were removed, and the land freed up with their removals would open up space for their next 2 coasters, the first of which came in 2013. Cedar Point decided to renovate their front entrance and added a new major coaster to tie in with it. The very fittingly named Gatekeeper greets everyone walking into Cedar Point. This massive B&M wing coaster flies right over the entrance through 2 massive keyholes. In addition to a fantastic coaster, a lot of great pop songs were released in 2013. This was the year of Applause by Lady Gaga, Blurred Lines, Timber, and Avicii's Wake Me Up. Pharrell Williams was all over the place with songs like Happy and his feature on the Daft Punk song Get Lucky. That was the year of Justin Timberlake's song Mirrors and Katy Perry's Roar. Miley came in like a wrecking ball, Drake started from the bottom, and One Direction told the story of my life. John Legend gave us All of Me, and One Republic was Counting Stars. Paramore also released the very catchy Still Into You, but my favorite, I'm going with Royals by Lorde. Further into the park is Val Raven. This coaster opened in 2016 on a plot of land previously occupied by the old Wildcat coaster, as well as one of several car rides in the park. At the time of its opening, Val Raven was the tallest and fastest B&M dive coaster in the world. At a height of 223 feet and a top speed of 75 miles per hour, this coaster tends to have one of the longest lines in the park, as these dive coasters are huge crowd pleasers. As for music in 2016, this is a tougher one. I don't listen to a lot of pop radio, but there were a few solid pop songs from that year, including Justin Timberlake's Can't Stop the Feelin' and Treat You Better by Shawn Mendes. My favorite of the year came from the group Skillet. I love the power and intensity of their song Feel Invincible. 2018 ended up being a big year for Cedar Point. After many years of sitting in the back of the park, facing declining ridership, the massive wooden coaster Mean Streak was finally closed. Coaster fans started getting excited for a possible arrival of RMC, and sure enough, they began removing the wooden track and replacing it with their steel iBox track. The coaster reopened in 2018 as the RMC masterpiece Steel Vengeance, a massive hybrid coaster with an abundance of airtime. This coaster is wild, and to many, including myself, the best coaster in the world. Now what about music in 2018? This was the year that Weezer covered the 80s classic Africa by Toto, Maroon 5 came out with Girls Like You, and Taylor Swift released one of my personal favorites of hers in Delicate. But I'm going with one of my favorite recent country songs that came out at that time. One that I had on repeat for most of that summer, and that was Singles You Up by Jordan Davis. Finally, we arrive at the present day with the most recent addition to Cedar Point's lineup in 2023. Following the removal of the impulse coaster Wicked Twister, Cedar Point began working to improve that area next to the beach by adding a large new pavilion with a restaurant and a viewing deck. They also added their first family-friendly coaster in a number of years. This new coaster ended up being a Wild Mouse coaster by Zamperla. Wild Mouse features spinning cars and a layout that's unique to many others. I didn't get to ride this on my last trip, so it'll be interesting to experience this one whenever I get a chance to return to the park. As for music from last year, there definitely were some good songs from artists that everyone was talking about. Olivia Rodrigo, Dua Lipa, and Post Malone among others. Taylor Swift dropped another favorite of mine off the Midnights album in Lavender Haze, but I'm going with an outstanding cover of one of the best songs to come out of the 90s. The British pop rock group Busted brought Hanson in to re-record their 1997 hit MMMBop. And just like many others who grew up in the 90s, I was jamming to this song all summer long. It even ended up being my top song on my Spotify Wrapped from last year. That's going to do it for this video. Let me know in the comments what your favorite songs are from each of the years that were mentioned in this video. If you enjoyed this one, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video. Also let me know in the comments what park I should do with this series next. Thank you so much for watching.